Jai Shri Ram, my friends, and once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Akash Vani Gyan Updesh. Today I got a very, very special guest here that's been absent for a while. Welcome back, my brother.
Thank you for the warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be back.
Well, a lot of emails I've been getting, what happened to Pandit Satish? So I tell them, well, you know, we got so much thing going on with the NLG program. So,
Right.
And then last week I spotlighted you when you did the opening prayer there. So a lot of people said they're happy to see you back on TV.
That's wonderful.
So today's show, my friend, today is a very, very special show. We're going to be doing, today's show is dedicated to Maha Shivratri. And we have no other than my brother here, my co-host of this program, Pandit Satish Dev. We're going to be starting out with a wonderful prayer.
I encourage all of you to focus your minds upon Lord Shiva, who we focus upon at this time of the year, specifically on the day of Maha Shivratri. To that almighty, merciful Lord, Shankar Bhagavan, we offer prayers. Om Vande Deva Umapatim Swaragurum Vande Jagat Karanam Vande Pannaga Bhushanam Mrigadharam Vande Pashunam Patim Vande Surya Shashaka Ninayanam Vande Mukunda Priyam Vande Bhakta Janasharayam Cha Varadam Vande Shivam Shankaram. Om Namah Shivaya. प्रेम से बोलो शिव शंकर भगवान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय.
Now, my friends, as you all know, Shivratri is a very, very special day to worship Maha Deo. So today itself is Shivratri. So I know many of you are going to probably get ready to go to Mandir, and so many probably in Mandir right now. But nevertheless, this show, I hope you're taping it so you can watch it. Now, Panditji, there's so many different ways of worshiping our Lord Shiva. The lingam is a one way, and also the murti itself of Lord Shiva is a different way. If you can please tell our viewers a little bit more about the different worship, if you can.
That is an excellent point you've raised there, because Lord Shiva, out of all of the devatas, he has the most variety of way we can worship him. Okay. You know, the other devatas, you mentioned the word murti. All the devatas, they just have a murti and that's it.
Right.
But Lord Shiva has the lingam, as you mentioned, and that lingam is a very special form of Lord Shiva.
Correct.
So we can worship him. We have a choice. That is the beauty of Sanatan Dharma on the whole. We do not say that you have one way only, and that if you do not follow this one way, then you're condemned. We don't say things like that. We have a choice what suits us better. You know, everybody is different. For example, you and I different things may work for us. For one person, one method will work. The next person, they might not like that one, so they have a different one to use.
Correct.
And that is the beauty of this. And that is the beauty of tonight also, that there are variations we can follow that suit us better, so we can feel closer to Bhagavan in our own way. He does not care, as long as it's one of those prescribed methods. He doesn't mind which one you use, as long as you use it to get closer to him.
Right.
Now, the murti, the good thing about using the murti is that you see the form, you see the attributes of Lord Shiva, the characteristic of Lord Shiva. You see the moon in his head, you see the 3 lines on his forehead, you see the snake around his neck, and you see the blue stain on his throat and all these things. That is what the murti gives to you. That is a benefit of worshipping that. So when you look at the murti, you have an idea who you are praying to.
Okay.
That is a good thing about the murti. Now the lingam is also very significant, because the lingam represents the infiniteness of Lord Shiva. Because originally the lingam, and I think a bit later on in the program I will read the extra from the Shiv Puran about that story. The lingam was originally a cylinder of light that had no beginning or end.
Right.
So that is what Lord Shiva is. He has no beginning and end. Not like this body that we have.
Right.
It has a date of birth when it comes into existence, and then one day it will disintegrate. It will end one day. Lord Shiva is not like that. And the lingam represents that. The cylinder shape represents the endless aspect of Lord Shiva.
Okay.
And also, it is an easy method that we can offer Abhishek to Lord Shiva. We can throw the dhar, as we say. It's more easy to throw dhar on a lingam because of the shape of it.
Correct.
As opposed to, exactly, that's the word. It flows much better. And the reason why we must throw dhar on Lord Shiva, not all the devatas require dhar, really, but Lord Shiva requires it. We always see they throw milk, they throw dahi, they throw ghee, they throw honey and cane juice, coconut water. These are standard things we see in all
So these are the ingredients that we use.
These are the ingredients
for the lingam.
Yes.
Okay.
And by pouring all these things, the lingam accepts it better. It as you use a very good word, it flows much better when you throw it on. Why do we do all of that? Well, we all know that Lord Shiva had swallowed poison and kept it in his throat. And it is said when he initially swallowed the poison, it had like a burning effect on the body. Like if you eat plenty pepper, you might perspire a lot.
Right.
Same thing was happening to him, it is said. So the ocean at that time was milk. So they get milk and they throw it on top of his head to cool him down. That is how the custom of throwing dhar on top of Lord Shiva started. So the lingam is a form that we can throw that dhar on him and remind ourselves of that event when Lord Shiva, for the benefit of whole creation, has swallowed that poison. So the lingam, those are a couple of significance of the lingam also.
Okay.
And another way, a third way, I would tell you, simply by sitting down and closing your eyes and meditating. And if you get a mala like this with 108 beads, you just say Om Namah Shivaya, and you keep count like this,
like
right?
Chanting.
Exactly, yes. That is also another way. Even if you do not have a murti, some people, for example, might be in the army, for example, and they don't have access to a murti or a picture or so. So that doesn't matter. They can still have Shivratri as well. They just sit down and meditate in the way that I have said, and picture Lord Shiva in their mind. That also is another way of worshiping Lord Shiva. So as I said, there's so many variety of ways, and whichever way you choose out of those three which I have mentioned here, whichever one works best for you, you go with that and stick with that. As long as you have that bhakti, that devotion to Lord Shiva inside, that is the most important ingredient. And once you have that, then your Shivratri will be a successful one.
Now I notice Lord Shiva itself, but of course our other murtism as well, have different the clothing and different ornaments and decorations.
Yes.
Like he have a damaru in his hand and he have a crescent moon in his head. Now all those are symbolize of different parts of our life itself, doesn't it?
Indeed. You mentioned some very good things there. The damaru, as you said, it is a drum which is shaped like a hourglass.
Correct.
That represents time.
Correct.
So all of us, we have limited time in our life. We don't have forever to achieve what we want to achieve in life. So when we see that damaru in the hand of Lord Shiva, we must know that the sand of time is falling for us. Every day, every second that's happening.
Correct.
So we have to make use of time. So that's what that represents. And then the moon in the head of Lord Shiva. The moon shines at night. So night represents darkness, and the moon is what lights up the night sky. So darkness is ignorance. And the fact that the moon is shining, it shows that there is something to dispel that ignorance. It is a source of light to dispel the darkness. And that is why the moon is in the head of Lord Shiva. And there are other things too. The snake around his neck, we mentioned that earlier as well. The snake is an animal which acts by instinct. It doesn't think. For example, if you accidentally irritate the snake one little bit, it will jump up and bite.
Right, it'll struck you.
Exactly. And that represents the instinct inside of us. Sometimes we can act without thinking as well. And this happens, that is human nature. But we have to rise above the animalistic thing and make sure that we think before we perform any action. Our brain must be ahead of our mouth and our actions. So that is what, by having the snake around his neck, it means he is in control of that snake. He is a master of that snake. In the same way, we must be the master of our desire and our instinct and all of those other things. So that is what the snake represents too. So
He's also wearing the tiger skin around his body as well.
Again, that has a very similar representation too. The fact that he has a tiger skin and he sits on it, really, he has it around his waist, as you said. Effectively, that means he has controlled the tiger. The tiger represents desire inside of us.
Okay.
And the tiger is a restless animal.
Correct.
Is always moving about looking for some prey to eat or something. And we have to control that desire. Our mind is like that too.
Right.
It's constantly moving from place to place. We can never keep it under control. So by having that tiger skin, which you mentioned, he is reminding us, let us keep control of that mind, which is like an animal just roaming about aimlessly. Let us take some control of that mind, and that is why he has that tiger skin around his waist.
Now, when was the first time? I don't know if you can answer this question or not. I don't mean to put you in a spot.
No.
When was the first time the lingam came about for us to worship?
It is said that Lord Brahma, it would have been very early in creation. I mean, it's not something that we can really put an exact date on.
Okay.
But how it came about, very briefly how it came about. So Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu were disputing as to which one of them is greater, it is said. So Lord Shiva said that I am going to take the form of a cylinder of light. So this is what I mentioned earlier too. I'm going to take a form of a cylinder of light.
No beginning and no end.
Exactly. And he said, whichever one of you can find my beginning or find the bottom, the top or the bottom, you will be the winner and you will be the greater one. So Lord Brahma went upwards and Lord Vishnu went down. Right? And of course they couldn't find the end because we established already Lord Shiva doesn't have beginning and end. Correct. So Lord Brahma went up and he found a flower along the way, it is said. And he talked to the flower. Now that sounds a bit ridiculous, but you know plants are feeling too.
Sure,
plants can understand when you talk to them and so on. And in that age, the flower could have talked back to him. That cannot happen now, but at that time it was possible. So Lord Brahma said, you know, I want you to be witness, a false witness, and pretend like I found the top. Come back with me and pretend that we found the top, and I will be declared the winner.
Right.
So he went back to the middle now and communicate with Lord Shiva and said, look, I have this flower who bear witness that I found the top of this cylinder of light that you're showing to me. So Lord Shiva knew that he was lying.
He's cheating. Yeah.
Exactly. and he told him that, you know, you have really done something wrong here, and for that reason I'm going to declare that mankind will not worship you. Now think about this. We know Lord Shiva Puja. We ever do Brahma? We don't do Brahma Puja.
Correct.
We don't keep Murti of Brahma. We have Hanumanji and Lord Shiva, Lakshmi, Ganesh all.
Right.
We don't have Lord Brahma Murti. And that's the reason why, because he did that.
He was cursed.
Yes. So Lord Shiva put that on him. And Lord Shiva also declared that this form, this cylinder form, will be used as my, like a lingam then, as my form now, from this time onwards, because this is very significant. This teaches us a very significant lesson, that we must not lie, and we must not try and pretend to do things that we cannot do. It is very misleading and very dishonest. And the Shiva Lingam reminds us of the need to be for humility, to be humble, and to be honest in our life as well.
Right.
So from that time, Shiva Lingam became the standard thing for Lord Shiva.
One of the worship of Lord Shiva.
Yes.
Wow, that's wonderful. I know there's a famous, very, very popular picture of Ram and Lakshman at a beach, making a lingam. And worshiping the lingam.
Right. That is in Lanka Kand of Ramayana. Yes, that also is very significant. Because Lord Rama was trying to show, although he is Bhagavan on earth, he's showing that all the devatas essentially are one. So I mean, he is one with Lord Shiva. Not that he is higher or Lord Shiva is higher. They're all one and the same at the end. That is why Lord Rama decided to worship Lord Shiva to prove that fact.
In the lingam form.
Yes, in the lingam form.
Right.
And also, it happened that Ravan also was very devoted to Lord Shiva. Although he done many wrongs in his life, he was still very devoted to Lord Shiva. So Sri Ram knew that Ravan is not going to interfere. Like when they start building the bridge and so on, Ravan will not interfere out of respect to Lord Shiva, and that is why he put that lingam there.
Right.
So that also is a very nice episode in Ramayana, which is relevant for tonight too.
Okay, my friends, I want to wish you all a very, very happy Shivratri. I know you probably, like I said, you probably be in Mandir, but this show is dedicated to each and every one of you, and also dedicated to the lotus feet of Lord Shiva. We're going to take a selection right now, and we will continue with Panditji to tell us a little katha about Shivratri. Thank you so much for joining us. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो भो शम्भो 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 शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो गङ्गाधर शङ्कर करुणाकर मामव भवसागर तारक गङ्गाधर शङ्कर करुणाकर मामव भवसागर तारक भो शम्भो शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो निर्गुण परब्रह्म स्वरूप गम गम भूत प्रपञ्च रहित निर्गुण परब्रह्म स्वरूप गम गम भूत प्रपञ्च रहित निज गुण निहित निदानन्द निज गुण निहित निदानन्द आनन्द अतिशय अक्षय लिङ्ग आनन्द अतिशय अक्षय लिङ्ग शम्भो शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो धिमित धिमित धिमि धिमि किट किट तोम तोम धिमि किट तरि किट किट धिमित धिमित धिमि धिमि किट किट तोम तोम धिमि किट तरि किट किट मतंग मुनिवर वन्दित ईशा सर्वदिगम्बर वेष्टित वेशा मतंग मुनिवर वन्दित ईशा सर्वदिगम्बर वेष्टित वेशा नित्य निरञ्जन नित्य नटेशा ईशा सबेशा सर्वेशा भो शम्भो शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो 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 शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो
Jai Bholenath. Welcome back to Gyan Upadesh, presented to you by Akash Vani Media. I'm very happy that on this auspicious night of the year, that I have the opportunity to give these messages out to you. You know, it is very significant because Maha Shivratri is a all-night celebration. It is not something you sit down for a couple of hours and finish. It is 4 prahar. It is celebrated over. Now, if we have the opportunity to observe 8 prahar, that means 24 hours, that also is very good. But the last 12 hours is most important. You'll recall in the last segment, I mentioned that the night, the darkness, represents ignorance, and the moon represents the light which can dispel that ignorance. So, Maha Shivratri reminds us that it is a nighttime observance. In fact, the word Maha Shiva Ratri. Maha is great, Shiva is Lord Shiva, Ratri is night. So it is a night to worship Lord Shiva. And it is called Maha Shivratri because in fact, each month has Shivratri. It's not only one Shivratri in the year. Each month has a Shivratri. But it is only one Maha Shivratri. And that is this one that we are discussing. That is the one we are all celebrating tonight. And I say celebrate. A lot of people say you should not use the word celebration because it's not like a party or anything like that. But we are celebrating in the sense that we are happy. If you cannot enjoy your worship of Lord Shiva, what is the point of doing it? You must be happy to do it and enjoy it. So we are celebrating Maha Shivratri tonight. And how must this be done? We discussed the attributes and characteristics of Lord Shiva a few moments ago, but let us move and hone in on Maha Shivratri specifically now. So as I said, 4 prahar. 1 prahar, it literally means a period of approximately 3 hours. So in one 24-hour day, from morning till next morning, there are 8 prahar. 8 multiplied by 3 is 24. So approximately 3 hours comprises 1 prahar. So from around 6 o'clock until 9 o'clock, we generally observe the first one, where Bhagavan Shankar is worshipped and adorations are given to him. And then from 9 o'clock until 12, we will observe Maha Shivratri. We do Shivaji Puja again. From midnight until 3 o'clock in the morning, we'll observe the next one, and then 3 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the morning. At 6 o'clock next morning, we are now in the next morning now, we will do the last prahar and conclude the observance of Maha Shivratri. Now, Bhaktajano, this actually can be a very difficult undertaking. But as I said before, once you have that bhakti, the correct bhavana, the correct feeling inside of you, then it will become easy then. Because what are we supposed to be doing within these 12 hours? Well, a lot of people said, they stay awake for Shivratri. But what do? In the home, whatever ironing they have to finish off, they use that time so it can keep them awake. And at the same time, they're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, finishing off an overdue household task. Any cleaning in the house, they use it to finish off. Students have told me also that they will use that time to study more and finish off any assignment. And that way they have stayed awake. Now, this is all well and good, but I want to remind you, it is not just about staying awake. A night watchman who does not even know it's Shivratri can stay awake whole night. They will still get blessing for it, because we are told in Shiv Mahapuran that even those who observe Maha Shivratri unknowingly still get the blessing. But that does not mean we should just do things mindlessly. We must still try and do things with knowledge and understanding and devotion. So, for that reason, do not just do other tasks to stay awake. Stay awake, but concentrate on Lord Shiva as well. Okay, if you have to do things in between each puja, then do it. That's fine. But make sure in each of those 4 prahar, you are doing Shiva puja in some form. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to offer dhar upon the lingam, if you want to offer puja to the murti, if you want to perform jap with this mala, Whichever one you're doing, make sure you're doing that throughout the night, and do not just do other activities just for the sake of staying awake, so that at the end you can say, I was awake the whole of Maha Shivratri. That is important. A next aspect of observing Maha Shivratri, besides staying awake, is fasting, basically. Whatever fast you can manage. Really and truly, a fast means that you do not partake of any kind of food whatsoever. Even some people might say not even water they will swallow for those 12 hours. Now, you have to know what you can manage, because everybody's body is different, everybody's health situation is different. Obviously, we will not expect a diabetic person to not have anything to eat at all for 12 hours and their blood sugar drop and they jeopardize their health. They have to know, but they can still, even if you are diabetic, you can still undertake some form of fasting. You can go without salt. You can do that. You can have food without salt. You can do that. But I will also say that if you do not have a health condition which prevents it, you should do the complete fast. That means do not partake of any food. Me personally, I have to still drink water because I'm reading pravachan and reading puja mantras throughout the night and so on. So therefore I cannot keep going if my throat is not hydrated. For that reason, I partake of water, but no other food. And the only reason I'm mentioning that, we're not supposed to discuss our fasting publicly, but the only reason I'm mentioning that is an example that you personally have to know what is your limit. And once you set yourself that limit and you stick to it, then Bhagavan Shankar will undoubtedly be very pleased with your devotion and the sacrifices you have made for the night of Maha Shivratri, and the blessing will flow to you in abundance. So Bhaktajano, in the next segment we will hear a little more about some excerpts from the Shiv Mahapuran as to the greatness of Shivratri and the benefits of observing it. So please do remain with us, enjoy this wonderful selection we have for you, and I look forward to being with you again in the next segment in a few minutes. Jai Bamboli.
शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर
जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर
चंचल चपल विराट चंद्रमणि नृत्य करत नटराज शीश पर
जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर
जटा गंग भस्मांग अंगरज जटा गंग भस्मांग अंगरज विष भुजंग खेलत शिव हिय पर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर
जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर
डमरू राजत शूल मुष्टि शोभे दूजे कर प्रथम हस्त महि डमरू राजत शूल मुष्टि शोभे दूजे कर वाहन जिनके नंद नंदीश्वर वाहन जिनके नंद नंदीश्वर तटि तट व्याघ्र चर्म मनोहर। जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर, जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर।
जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर, जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर।
आसन पर स्वयं विराजे, वाम भाग गिरिजाजी साजे। हिम आसन पर स्वयं विराजे, वाम भाग गिरिजाजी साजे। सौम्य मुद्रा और गहन समाधि, सौम्य मुद्रा और गहन समाधि। जटा मध्य रख गंगधार भर। जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर, जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर।
जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर, जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर।
मानव पिशाच गण, समदृष्टि रखते शिव सब पर। देव दैत्य मानव पिशाच गण, समदृष्टि रखते शिव सब पर। औघड़ दाता औघड़ त्राता, औघड़ दाता औघड़ त्राता। स्वयं शैव पर शंकर निर्भर। जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर, जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर।
जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर, जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर।
दिमिक डम 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 डम, डमरू ध्वनि सुन कंपित गिरिवर। दिमिक दिमिक डम 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 डम, डमरू ध्वनि सुन कंपित गिरिवर। ऋषिगण रूप निरखते विस्मित, ऋषिगण रूप निरखते विस्मित। कंठ करत स्वर हर 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 हर
हर हर हर हर हर हर हर हर हर हर।
जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर, जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर।
जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर, जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर।
Har Har Mahadev, my greetings to you once again in the name of Shankar Bhagavan. Welcome back to this, the third segment of Gyan Upadesh, presented to you by Akash Vani Media. And as I said, what an auspicious night we have to be broadcasting this program. How fortunate we all are that through the blessing of Shankar Bhagavan, this opportunity has been afforded to us. So, Bhaktajano, I was talking about staying awake and fasting. That was the main topic of the last segment. What's so important about all of these things? Well, keeping awake represents, sleep in the night can be symbolic of the fact that we are sleeping. There's a bhajan that says, Utth jaga musafir bhod bhai ab rain ka sowat hai. That bhajan urges us. Ut means to rise up. Jag means to wake up. Musafir means a traveler. It means we are essentially traveling and yet we are asleep. What does that mean? That we are living in this world and we are not keeping up with our true knowledge of ourselves. That is the sleep we are in. So the fact that you are staying awake on the night of Shivratri, it means that you are trying to awaken yourself from this slumber of ignorance that we are all in. And then, by denying yourself food, by denying yourself something and keeping a fast, then that means you are controlling yourself. We mentioned earlier that the snake and the tiger skin represents the animalistic instincts and desires that are within us, and we have to keep control of them. So eating can also be a form of desire, because we do not just simply eat food to stay, to stop being hungry. We eat food to enjoy it as well. If that were not the case, then we can just have one type of food every day. Which one of you can eat the same meal every single day and not get fed up with it? No matter how much you may love a certain food, after a time you'll get disgust with it and want to go on to another one. Have a change of your eating habit. That proves that we are eating we are fulfilling a desire by eating, and by abstaining from that just for one night, just for that 12-hour period. In fact, really, we should be fasting from the morning time. That means 24 hours we should be going without that food. So, Bhakta Jano, that is the significance of keeping awake and fasting also. Now, I mentioned earlier that we can observe Maha Shivratri unknowingly. Now, how can this be done? Well, we have all heard the story of the hunter who went up into the tree on the night of Shivratri, not even knowing it was Maha Shivratri, and it happened to be a Bael tree. Now, this is an important ingredient in the worship of Lord Shiva. The Bael Patra is a leaf with 3 leaves attached in one stem, and that is very sacred to offer to Lord Shiva on this night, amongst other things too. So he was sitting up in the tree, just picking the leaf, because he wanted to he was afraid of a certain animal, and also he was waiting for other animals to shoot as well. So to kill the time, he was simply picking the leaves and then dropping them. Just, sometimes when you fidget, when you're bored, that's what he was doing. Unbeknownst to him, there was a lingam underneath, and the Bael Patra was falling on the lingam. So it happened, by the end of the night, he was blessed by Shankar Bhagavan. Say, you have observed Maha Shivratri successfully. And there is also the story of a young man by the name of Gunanidhi. He had, I will cut the story very short. In the mandirs, you will hear the story in more detail, that he had disgraced his parents. He had become a compulsive gambler and gambled away his parents' wealth, and he ended up as a wandering beggar for that reason, through his own fault. And it happened that one night he followed a group of villagers. They were in the jungle picking up leaves and fruits and flowers and everything. They were preparing for Maha Shivratri, but he didn't know. So he followed them back to the mandir, and he waited outside the mandir, and eventually they all fell asleep. It's hard to stay awake. It is hard to stay awake as you are supposed to. So this particular mandir, everyone happened to fall asleep. He sneaked inside to try and pick up the offerings of prasad and fruits and so on, and so he could go outside and eat and satisfy his hunger, because he had eaten nothing all day. And when he went out, he accidentally stepped on somebody and woke them up, and there was a big commotion, and they started to chase him, and they called the soldiers of the kingdom to also chase him, and they had to end up killing him because he put up so much of a resistance. And then when the messengers of Yamraj came for him, when we die, either Yamraj or Yamdut can come for us. if we have not lived a very good life, Yamdut, the very frightening messengers of Yamraj, will come for us. They came, and Lord Shiva's messengers, they intercepted them and said, no, you have no right over this boy. We are going to take him to Lord Shiva. So the messenger of Yamraj said, how can you say that? This boy has gambled, disobeyed his parents, brings shame upon his family name. He has gambled, and he has tried to, not only that, the same Lord Shiva, he has tried to steal his offerings. So the messengers of Lord Shiva said, no, he has observed Maha Shivratri. Unlike everyone else, he stayed awake all night. And he fasted because he didn't eat anything. And you know, when he was in the mandir, it happened that when he was looking, it was dark inside. So he lit a diya, it is said, and he was moving the diya side to side. So he said he actually did arti of Lord Shiva without even knowing about it. So he said this soul has observed Maha Shivratri and has earned a place with Lord Shiva. Now, this simply means that Lord Shiva is so merciful that he even accepts that kind of a offering and worship and observance of Maha Shivratri. But as I said before, I'm not encouraging you to observe Maha Shivratri like that. I'm simply asking you to think about it this way, that if the hunter and this young man who I read about got so much blessing by observing Maha Shivratri unknowingly, imagine if you do it with a full heart of bhakti and devotion, how much more blessing you will get from doing it. So those are two examples of individuals who observe Maha Shivratri unknowingly. So that's how great this night is, that even an ignorant individual can still obtain a place, a secure place in the abode of Shankar Bhagavan, simply by performing these actions. So please sit back and relax and listen to the selection, and then I will be back with you in the next segment of this program. Jai Bholinath.
ब्रह्ममुरारिसुरार्चितलिङ्गं निर्मलभासितशोभितलिङ्गम् जन्मजदुःखविनाशकलिङ्गं तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् देवमुनिप्रवरार्चितलिङ्गं कामदहन करुणाकरलिङ्गम् रावणदर्पविनाशकलिङ्गं तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् सर्वसुगन्धसुलेपितलिङ्गं बुद्धिविवर्धनकारणलिङ्गं सिद्धसुरासुरवन्दितलिङ्गं तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गं कनकमहामणिभूषितलिङ्गं फणिपतिवेष्टितशोभितलिङ्गम् दक्षसुयज्ञविनाशनलिङ्गं तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् कुङ्कुमचन्दनलेपितलिङ्गं पङ्कजहार सुशोभितलिङ्गम् सञ्चितपापविनाशनलिङ्गं तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् देवगणार्चितसेवितलिङ्गं भावैर्भक्तिभिरेव च लिङ्गं दिनकरकोटिप्रभाकरलिङ्गं तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् अष्टदलोपरिवेष्टितलिङ्गं सर्वसमुद्भवकारणलिङ्गम् अष्टदरिद्र्यविनाशनलिङ्गं तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् सुरगुरुसुरवरपूजितलिङ्गं सुरवनपुष्प सदार्चितलिङ्गम् परमपदं परमात्मकलिङ्गं तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् लिङ्गाष्टकमिदं पुण्यं यः पठेच्छिवसन्निधौ शिवलोकमवाप्नोति शिवेन सह मोदते।
Jai Bholenath. My friends, once again, thank you so much for tuning to Akash Vani Gyan Updesh. You have been listening to my co-host here, my brother Pandit Satesh Dev, for the last hour. And the time has gone so fast. But if you don't mind, continue your kata so we can finalize and close off our program.
Yes, indeed. So we heard some examples just now of how two individuals who are not necessarily devotees, but still they got the blessing of observing Maha Shivratri properly. So I would urge each and every one of you, if it's possible, I know life in New York especially, working life can get very busy, as I'm sure you can attest to that. And it's hard sometimes to get the time to do everything we are supposed to do. But if it's possible, not the day of Shivratri, but the day after Shivratri is a good idea, if you can, to take some time off. Why do I say that? Because, as I said, the correct way to observe Shivratri is whole night until next morning. So obviously, if you've been awake whole night until 6 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to be very productive at work that day. So it'd be a good idea to take that day off from work. You do not necessarily need to take the day of Shivratri off, because if you can finish a reasonable time, then you will still be free in the night.
That's correct.
So that makes sense.
Yes.
To try and take the day after Maha Shivratri off. So it also is a good idea. I mentioned there are 4 prahar, 4 sections of Shivratri. If you can sit down, even if you are doing puja to Lord Shiva, if you sit down in each of those 4 quarters, and you sit down and say Om Namah Shivaya 108 times. You have a mala, this is called Rudraksh Mala, this one. This is special to Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva, right.
This other one I'm wearing is called Tulsi Mala, it's for Lord Vishnu. There are other mala for the other devatas, but this one is a special one. And even if you don't have it doesn't matter, as long as you're keeping the number. Correct. So I encourage you, each of those 4 quarters, sit down, put half an hour aside of your time. Even if you are in Mandir, for example, there'll be different section when they're singing bhajan and so on. You can quietly do it in your mind during that period. If you're home, even better. You can sit down in front of your altar or wherever and do that. That is an important thing. Om Namah Shivaya. Now in Sanskrit, Namah Shivaya is 5 letters. And this, the number 5 has so much significance. We have 5 senses. And I said before, we are trying to control our senses. That is what Lord Shiva is all about. So, the 5 syllables of that mantra of Lord Shiva, it represents those 5 senses. And if we can say them, we are asking him, help us to control these 5 senses. So we must make that chanting of that very simple mantra an important part of our worship of Lord Shiva. And that's how merciful he is, that anybody can say that mantra. It's not a long, complicated thing.
Very easy mantra.
Very, very simple. So anybody can say it. That's what Lord Shiva, one of his merciful characteristics, that he wants everybody, down to the smallest child, to be able to have access to him and to be able to call his name. And that's why he is so wonderful. And we are also in the period of Chautal, and I know you enjoy that very much. And there's a very famous Chautal which says
Shiva Shankar.
There you go. I pause so you could say, because I know you know it very well, right? If we look in the words of that Chautal, the meaning is so beautiful. And Shivratri always fall within Chautal season.
Correct.
And so it's no coincidence that one of the most popular chautal. There's several. Devi Sharada is another one. Gokula Bicha Janame Kanhai. All chautal singers know these things. As you mentioned, Shiva Shankar is another popular one that everybody sings. Shiva Shankar Dina Dayala Mahavardhani. What is the meaning of that? Deen Dayal means those who are less fortunate, he is merciful to them. That's what Deen Dayal means. Shiva Shankar Dina Dayal Mahabardhani. Bardhan means boon. That anyone who asks him for something, he grants it very easily to them. Even to Ravan, as we mentioned before, even Ravan, he gave a lot of power to Ravan because Ravan prayed to him. So he is easily pleased. The next line of the Chautal says, Anga Bibhuti liye mrigachala jata ganga arujhani. So Anga Bibhuti, that he has the ashes on his body. What does that mean? It means that when we are gone from this world, and we all know it happened to all of us one day, we can't escape that fact. We are cremated and our body is reduced to ashes.
Right.
So he takes that ash and put it on his body, meaning that we join with him. He accepts us to come and join and become one with him. So that is why he has the ash on his body. Anga Vibhuti liye mrigachala jata ganga rujha. So jata is the
Ganga flowing.
Yes. Right? And why he had that particular hairstyle? Because when Ganga was to come from heaven onto the earth, from Vaikunthalok, Swargalok to the earth, the pressure of water is very high, so it would have destroyed the earth. The impact would have destroyed the earth. So Lord Shiva said, no, I'm going to save this world. And he bundled his hair on top of his head like a cushion then. So that when the river come down, it will absorb all of the pressure and save the world. And then when it's absorbed all the pressure, then the river will flow out more nicely and gently out of there. That's why we always see that the Ganga, as you said just now, Ganga is coming out of his head. So that is another thing. And all of these things, the fact that he swallowed the poison, the fact that he destroyed Rakshas, the fact that he absorbed the shock of Ganga upon his head, it means that he loves his creation and he doesn't want anything to happen to his creation. So whenever we find that there is a lot of natural disaster happening in the world, regularly we hear about flooding and earthquake and all these things. Shankar Bhagavan is the one we must pray to. It means that we are not giving enough attention to him. Attention is not the right word actually. Enough devotion to him. Yes. We are not giving enough to him and we must give more. And he will save us from any natural disaster and calamity. So it is very important to pray to Lord Shiva. And it's a very special night where we focus on his form in particular.
Correct. And
we're very lucky to have the opportunity. And the first show, I think, on the radio, Akash Vani radio, we discussed Maha Shivratri.
That's correct.
A few years back. So it is very auspicious that we're here again and discussing this.
Well, once again, brother, I want to thank you so much for that beautiful katha. I know most people, our viewers out there, really appreciate for you to explain. I know it's a long length of katha,
yes,
but I'm glad you'll be able to compress it into such a short time. And I do hope you enjoy our discussion here, my friends. And once again, very happy Shivratri to each and every one of you. And thank you so much for tuning to Akash Vani Gyan Updesh. We're here at this channel every Monday 9 to 10 p.m. and also on Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. Spectrum TV, channel 1997. And of course, you're watching it right now on Vios channel 37. And I want to thank you also, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel. If you cannot be able to watch it in your local area, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel internationally, so everybody could be able to see and learn from this program. This is the whole idea, for you to learn from this program. And once again, we want to thank you so much. Have a blessed week ahead. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
Om Jai Shiva Omkara Swami Hara Shiva Omkara Brahma Vishnu Sadashiva Brahma Vishnu Sadashiva Ardhangi Dhara Om Jai Shiva Omkara Ekanan Chaturanana Panchanan Raje Swami Panchanan पंचानन राजे हंसानन गरुणासन हंसानन गरुणासन विश्वाहन साजे ओम जय शिव ओंकारा दो भुज चार चतुर्भुज 10 भुज ते सोहे स्वामी 10 भुज ते सोहे तीनों रूप ने रखता तीनों रूप ने रखता त्रिभुवन जन मोहे ओम जय शिव ओंकारा अक्षमाला वनमाला मुंडमाला धारी स्वामी मुंडमाला धारी चंदन मृग मद सोहे चंदन मृग मद सोहे भाले शशिधारी ओम जय शिव ओंकारा श्वेतांबर पीतांबर बाघंबर अंगे स्वामी बाघंबर अंगे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादिक सनकादिक ब्रह्मादिक भूतादिक संगे ओम जय शिव ओंकारा कर में श्रेष्ठ कमंडल चक्र त्रिशूल धरता स्वामी चक्र त्रिशूल धरता जग करता जग हरता जग करता जग हरता जग पालन करता ओम जय शिव ओंकारा ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेशा जानत अविवेका स्वामी जानत अविवेका प्रणवाक्षर के मध्य प्रणवाक्षर के मध्य ये तीनों एका ओम जय शिव ओंकारा त्रिगुण स्वामी जी की आरती जो कोई नर गावे स्वामी प्रेम सहित गावे कहत शिवानंद स्वामी कहत शिवानंद स्वामी मन वांछित फल पावे ओम जय शिव ओंकारा ओम जय शिव ओंकारा स्वामी हर शिव ओंकारा ब्रह्मा विष्णु सदाशिव ब्रह्मा विष्णु सदाशिव अर्धांगी धारा ओम जय शिव ओंकारा